Skyrim. Get up.
Welcome to my combat guide. In this guide, I'll go through my setup, and I'll try to explain why I set up my Skyrim this way. Sadly, my setup is for SE, and so some mods listed here are not available for LE, but you can still set up and use some of the combinations of mods in this guide to enhance your LE build. By no means is this guide perfect. I am 100% sure I will update my load order in the future when new mods come out. I would also like to mention I play using a controller, and I highly recommend others to do so to try playing with one. Alright, grab a coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Foundation. In order to set up an enjoyable combat experience, we need to make sure it is built upon a solid foundation. A lot of people mod their Skyrim without having a good foundation, and this can lead to many issues. Alright, with that said, let's go through the foundational mods. SkySA. This is the core of my combat experience. I've created a separate guide that covers SkySA, which you can watch to understand all the features it implements. But for those who don't know what SkySA is, long story short, it's a framework that overhauls the third-person attacking animations to have commitment. When you attack, you can't cancel your attacks by blocking, but you can cancel them via dodging mods if you set them up that way. I personally really enjoy this, as you really have to plan ahead and every decision matters. If you personally don't want this feature, you can install Ultimate Combat to allow for block cancelling. There's no more ice skating like in vanilla, and many authors have created movesets to give weapons their own unique identity. It also implements telegraphed attacks for humanoid NPCs to make combat more consistent and enjoyable. For my build, I'm using Mike Knight's Elder Souls collection with AMR and DAR support. A common issue in general for animations is that they're not cached properly, so while the game is running, the character may T-pose while the game is trying to load these animations. A clever way to get around this is by utilizing DAR to cache the animations, which is what our boy Mike Knight has done. With this, SkySA animations load instantly when you start the game, and you won't randomly T-pose during combat. True directional movement. What can I say? You get true 360 movement and attacks, and it comes with the best lock-on system out there. This is a must-have mod. SmoothCam. In my opinion, SmoothCam is the best third-person camera mod available. It's optimized and highly configurable with many available presets. I will link my preset in the description for those who wish to try it out. Dodge mods. This will be a tough one. You have two choices. First option, DMCO. DMCO works on a behavioral level, so there will be no input lag. And secondly, it utilizes SKSE to detect control input, unlike all the other dodge mods. This is extremely important, as all the other dodge mods use the player's direction as the dodge direction, which can be, well, not so great. Occasionally you will want to dodge in one direction, but you go off in another. But DMCO will detect your input, and so you will always dodge in the direction you want to go in. It also includes a configurable hotkey for dodging. Tapping the hotkey will execute a sidestep, and double-clicking it will execute a rolling dodge. The issue with DMCO currently is that it doesn't actually have iframes, meaning scripted mods that stagger the character like Inpa or Combat can still stagger you when you dodge. DMCO also doesn't work in first person, and it doesn't implement any NPC dodging AI. Second option, and the option I ultimately settled on, TUDM. It also works on a behavioral level, so there's no lag. However, it doesn't have input detection, and so it is prone to the issue I mentioned earlier. The good thing about TUDM is that it works in first person, comes with NPC dodging AI, and includes actual iframes. Unfortunately, there isn't a configurable hotkey for dodging itself, unlike DMCO, which does. I have also set up the dodges in the MCM to consume around 20 stamina for balancing purposes. Additionally, this can trip up a lot of people when they initially stall TUDM. Dodging for the first time causes the character to freeze. To fix this, just press the toggle dodge style hotkey, which by default is set to G. Also make sure to install TUDM reanimated for better dodge animations. I'll link these mods in the description. Alright, to summarize, I'll quickly list the pros and cons for these dodge mods, to help you decide which one you want to use. Inpa Sekiro Combat. This mod does a lot, and it comes with a highly configurable MCM, so you can tweak its many features. I'll cover the most important features this mod implements. However, if you want to know more, please read about it over on the mod page. Inpa Sekiro Combat repurposes the stamina meter into a poise meter, that when depleted will cause your poise to break, leaving you vulnerable and open to attacks. However, this also works both ways, and breaking an enemy's posture will leave them open to be executed. You can now perform parries by blocking when an enemy attacks you. perfect parries can be tricky to pull off but will negate all damage and damage the enemy's posture. If you parry perfectly 3 times in a row, the enemy will be staggered. With the AI Inpa Sekiro implements, an ebb and flow arises during fights. You might be on the defensive while the enemy on the offensive. Then later you're on the offensive and the enemy on the defensive. This makes combat much more dynamic and responsive. You can also enable options to be able to parry arrows and magic. However, arrows will still damage your posture and magic your magicka if you just hold block. You will need to time your parries to avoid this. Inpa Sekiro combat also implements a poise system. You can get staggered from attacks, but like in Souls games, there is some stagger immunity for balancing purposes. Perfect parries will grant you a duration of stagger immunity that is based on the weapon type you are wielding. If you are taking many consecutive hits and being stagger locked, a stagger immunity will kick in, preventing you from being stagger locked indefinitely. Due to how Inpa Sekiro combat is so configurable, I highly recommend you tinkering with its features to find what best suits you. Hellblade Timed Block. This is a behavioral parry mod. If you parry perfectly, you will always cause the enemy to recoil, leaving them open to attacks. You kind of have an option here. You could use Inpa Sekiro combat's parry system or override it with this mod. However, just know that Inpa Sekiro's parry system is scripted, and so is prone to script lag. I personally haven't experienced any issues, but for people who do, might benefit from using Hellblade Time Block. It ultimately boils down to personal preference. I don't use this mod as I prefer to use Inpa Sekiro's parry system, so fights retain that ebb and flow. But I know some people prefer easier parrying, and it can be a good way to help balance out extra hardcore builds. This mod also removes the recoil animation when an attack is blocked, allowing you to chain attacks whilst an enemy is blocking. If you decide not to use Hellblade Time Block but still want this feature, trust me, you really want this, then install Unblockable. Wildcat. I disabled almost every feature in Wildcat via the MCM, because all I use it for is implementing normal attack stamina consumption. I implemented this because I want stamina/posture management to be vital during combat. This incentivizes you to think, rather than just being able to spam light attacks. You can tweak the stamina consumption using its MCM, AMMCO. Alright, so basically with AMMCO you won't be able to run with a weapon unsheathed. You will be able to sprint, but this consumes stamina. This makes fights much more intense, as positioning becomes very important due to how I've set up the stamina and posture management. Intense Combat. Intense Combat is an add-on for SkySA. Humanoid NPCs will now be able to perform combo attacks. Higher level NPCs will have shorter telegraphed windows, and have greater chances of performing comboed attacks. I implemented this mod to make combat way more challenging. An important thing to mention though is that certain weapon combos NPCs have misaligned attacking windows. If this really gets to you, you could override these using the NPC attack animations from JH Animation Pack, which I have found to be more consistent, and so I use them. Slower projectiles. I have always hated how projectiles were sometimes undodgeable. In my opinion, we should design the game in a way so players are able to avoid all damage, if they are skilled enough. Slower projectiles removes instant cast spells, and nerfs the speed of all projectiles. Be wary though, this will decrease the speed of your projectiles you fire, and might not be for everyone. But for me personally, I do not mind, and I absolutely need this. Vanguard. Vanilla power bashes are basically untelegraphed. Nobody wants to take damage from untelegraphed attacks. This mod adds commitment and windups to power bashes, so they are more satisfying to use, and now you will see them coming from NPCs. Stagger direction fix. You need this. You don't want to be staggered into an enemy's comboed attack. Speed and reach is fixed. Vanilla weapons have insane reach. This mod fixes this, and now you don't have to worry about dying to random BS. Accessories. Alright, we've covered the foundations, now let's move on to the accessories. These aren't necessary, but can be the cherry on top of our mod list. Zxlice hitStop. This does nothing functionally, but really makes hits have more visual impact. Flinch. Applies flinching to enemies. Again, like with hitStop, this really helps combat feel much more fleshy and responsive. Zxlice Ultimate Potion Animation. A behavioral level mod that forces the character, including the player, into a consume potion animation to help balance potions out. No more pausing the game to chug 500 potions during combat. Inquisitor. Adds commitment to magic. You won't be able to back up constantly casting a spell to cheese your enemies. Be warned though, this is still work in progress, and dual casting non-damage spells doesn't work. Thu'um. Applies commitment to shouting. It's not for everyone though. It does make shouting significantly more tactical and difficult to use during a fight. I personally don't use it anymore, as I like shouting to be easily accessible during combat. but some of you guys might like it, so consider trying it out. Elder Soul sweep attacks. With stamina/posture balancing from the foundational mods, it makes the game quite challenging. Normally attacks only hit one enemy in front of you. Now you're able to hit multiple enemies in front of you. This mod helps to make fighting groups of enemies more engaging and further incentivizes good positioning, and makes combat more balanced. And that's it. Consider copying my build or reworking it to fit your preferences. I'd love to see some of your builds down in the comment section below. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Currently over 70% of my viewers aren't subbed. Also, consider supporting the channel by becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon. Take it away, Bonzi buddy.